Welcome to The Business Strategist, the show for CEOs and founders ready to scale fast, lead smarter, and build a business that doesn't rely on them. I'm Adam Strong, award-winning strategist, former elite athlete, international speaker, and 3 times best-selling author. After 3 decades in business, I know exactly what it takes to grow, scale, and exit with impact. Each week, I dive into real conversations with industry experts, bold entrepreneurs, and clients navigating the uphill struggles of business, giving you the tools and the strategies to create more profit, more freedom, and more impact. Let's get into it. Hey guys, I just wanted to take this opportunity to make you aware of a brand new tool that we've just created called the Exit Readiness Assessment. Now, it is for founders and CEOs that are looking to exit from their business operations. Now, it doesn't matter even if you're not looking to exit right now, I would highly recommend to go and take the assessment straight away. It helps you to identify areas in your business that you need to work on to help you towards that exit strategy. And at the end of it, you get a personalized report on some of the areas that you're doing particularly well in and some of the areas that you need to make some improvements to. Make sure you head over to readytoexit.scoreapp.com. That's readytoexit.scoreapp.com. Enjoy. Have you ever felt like you're on the verge or your business is on the verge of something humongous, something big, right? But you just was so close, but you just didn't know how to go about doing it. It's all about being in the right time and the right place. Now, today we're going to be talking a little about the real signs or the real indicators of how to scale your business. What we're going to be talking about is what you should be looking for, what you shouldn't be looking for, what you need to be on the lookout. I'm going to share some personal stories and also some clients that we worked with actually recently that might give you some context about how you could apply that in your own business. So let's dive into today's episode. Let's talk about the first one. The first one is really important, which is market demand strong? So the first thing that I look for as a strategist when people come to me and they're like, hey, so I'm thinking about scaling up my business. The first thing I'm looking for is the market demand strong in their industry, in what they do, in what they offer, et cetera, et cetera. We've been working with an architectural firm recently, and they are amazing at what they do, like really amazing what they do. They're expanding into different countries and different jurisdictions, which is great. But the thing is that they're in a position where basically they don't have huge capacity, all right, because they only have a small team. And so their focus is all about quality over quantity. Now, interestingly enough, they've actually got such a big demand is that they are now fully booked for the next 6 to 8 weeks. They've actually started up a wait list, which means that you can't work with them unless you sign up to the wait list. What they've done amazingly is that they've actually created some imagery, put it over onto places like LinkedIn and done before and after photos. And what this does is it's creating a flurry of amazing inquiries, and they get to cherry pick who they want to work with. What I find is being able to adapt in certain times. It's a core foundation. So sustainable growth, very important. I always think about 5 main things. Number one is inquiries. How many inquiries are coming in? Number 2, how many conversations are you actually having on your having with potential clients or your ICP? Number 3 is bookings. So that could be appointments. Number 4 is looking at the analytics. So, what sort of web traffic is coming through your website, looking at what sort of traction, what types of people are landing on your LinkedIn profile and things like that. And the 5th thing I look for is sales, right? So what are the continuous amount of sales that are coming through? A really great document that I use and I've been using for many years. And I want to mention this gentleman. He was one of my very first mentors back in the day, which is Dan Priestley, has a great document called the LAPS document. And if you don't know what LAPS means, it means leads, appointments, presentations, and sales. If you're using a document like that, you can use that as a way to measure how much demand the market is, how strong the market is in your sector, okay? So we actually on a weekly basis, at the end of the week, we make sure that our spreadsheets are all updated. That way we can track things throughout the year to see if there are any spikes and there are downfalls. So I think this is extremely important, right? Market demand is strong. That's the first thing I'm looking for. Second thing, cash flow. Now, if your cash flow has got to be solid, all right? Now, if your cash flow is not solid, which means maybe you are in a seasonal business, or maybe there are times throughout the year where you're getting these peaks and troughs in terms of cash flow, what that's going to do is it's really going to disrupt where you invest. So think of it like this, okay? And one thing that I've noticed, and something that I've noticed, and I'm going to be put my hand up, ladies and gents, I'm going to put my hand up, and I'm going to say that sometimes there are in our business is that cash flow does go up and down. Okay. So what we find towards the end of the year is that we have this huge influx of clients that want to come in because the new year is kicking in. They want to have a solid foundation. They want to have a solid plan going into the new year. They can already foresight what's going to happen in terms of the future, right? Or you're going to get reactive people, which kind of lastminute.com. But cash flow is absolutely key. So if you are in a business now, for example, I remember working with an accountancy practice, and accountancy is a really classic example of this, where an accountancy practice will know when HMRC call for when accounts are due in. And it's normally like around towards the end of October, there's this huge influx of like where accountants are super busy. The end of January tends to be one as well. If you're finding that you're getting a huge amount of invoices paid within a certain period of time, then you need to look at how can you make your business more sustainable over a period of time. What I found is in our business is that we had exactly that in the past. So we would have these peaks and troughs in terms of cash flow. And what that does is as soon as we get a load about cash flow that comes in place, one of the things that we advise about our clients is about complacency. Okay. So what I find is that a lot of businesses, what they'll do is they'll go through these phases, is that they'll get a lot of cash flow in and they'll stop investing, whether it be into lead generation or marketing or whatever it is, right? They get complacent because they've been working their nuts off for months on end to get new clients. They finally get the clients and then they go back to the comfort zone. And that's the wrong way to do things, right? You've got to continuously make sure that you're constantly investing in the business, because if you reinvest in the business over and over time, then you're going to get that frequent cash flow over a long period of time. You're not going to get those peaks and troughs. And remember, it has a massive amount of emotional and mental strain as being a founder of a business as well, if you don't have that regularity of cash flow coming in. Very, very, very important. Third part, operations are streamlined or systemized. Let me give an example. I've been running a podcast for 4.5 years. When I first started up running my podcast, right, we were doing a lot of things manually, okay? So we weren't utilizing a lot of systems. We were doing a lot of things manually, which meant things such as manually uploading of scripts, manually write out all of the not necessarily from A to B, but we would have to give like a detailed description. We would have to create lots of titles. And all in all, it would take up a huge amount of me and my team's time. And I thought to myself that there's got to be an easier way to streamline this. There's got to be a much easier way to make things happen. So one of the things that we started implementing was what productivity tools could we do to help streamline and speed things up. So we started introducing things like Trello. Trello is a great productivity tool because it uses boards, and we're able to effectively duplicate, because we found that a lot of the things that we were doing, it was duplicatable. So using Trello, for example, was just a great tool just to streamline things, implementing, bringing in things like Google Drive, make sure that people have access to that Google Drive, of course, and make sure that there is a process of when guests come onto the show, for example, what is it that they need to do? There's like a checklist of all the things. And if you make it easy for them, you make it easy for yourself. So that is just, again, another kind of example of making sure that your operations are streamlined. Make sure that they're not complicated and you're trying and testing things all the time. Point number 4 is your team ready? Very important here. So let me give an example here. We were working with a law firm a few years ago, and the founder itself had been working in employment law for quite some time, wanted to do something a little bit different, follow her passion, etc. Now, before that actually happened, she needed to bring on other team members on board. But once she'd brought those team members on, she needed to align the team, right? She needed to bring people up to scratch and say, "Hey guys, listen, we're gonna be opening up a extra part of the business, but I need to make sure that everyone is aligned. Everyone is going towards this vision. Everyone steps up." And so, in that period of time when there was uncertainty of an expansion of the business and didn't know what that would look like, the rest of the business was ticking along lovely because everyone had been clued up. Everyone was aligned, their personal values, everyone felt looked after. And there was this kind of really great correlation in terms of culture about where everyone was going. I remember about 4 years ago, we ran the Game Changer Summit, which was one of my first digital summits that I'd ever created. And what was really interesting is that I carefully handpicked and reached out to selective guests that I thought would be really good based on the vision and the mission of the summit. But also what was really important is that we created I suppose they call it a collaboration between me and the guests, but also with people that were working behind the scenes. We actually had we had 7 full-time people working behind the scenes that people didn't know about. I had to get everyone together. I had to say, look, listen, guys, this is the reason why we're doing this. This is where it's going to take us. And and I need you to all step up because I'm not the best graphic designer. I'm not the best editor. I'm not the best copywriter. This is what I need you to do. This is how I'm thinking. This is my vision. This is what I believe what's going to happen. So what was really interesting is based off the back of that first summit, we had over 2,500 people opt in. And this was the very first time I did this. We gave it all away for free. So that's just another example of, is the team ready? So have you had those conversations or are you guessing? And the last one, which is one of my favorite, but the most important part, I think, is having a clear growth plan. Now, interestingly enough, we'd been working with a business planning company actually, and what was really interesting is that they were very good at what they did. I'm not going to deny that. What they weren't very good at is actually planning their own business, and you probably would have seen this if you're a marketing agency, if you're an accountant or whatever it is. What you'll find that you're very good at working for other clients, but when it comes to your own business, it becomes a bit of a neglect, right? I don't know if you can resonate with me on that. What was really interesting is that they'd been established for quite a number of years and they felt like they tried everything in terms of marketing, in terms of lead generation, in terms of sales, like they tried everything. The business owner itself felt completely exhausted and was just kind of scratching their head thinking, where am I going to go now? Like, it created a lot of anxiety and overwhelm and frustration more than anything else because, again, they were kind of A, but they wanted to be where B was. And so B was kind of like the dream and the desire, which was to be able to, help the founder to exit operationally. But the big problem is that they really had no clear route or clear plan to grow the business. They just didn't have a clue. And so one of the things that we had to do is really to strip things back and to go back to what I call core foundations. And when I say core foundations, for example, looking at your vision, your mission, your purpose, what's the legacy you want to create? What does an exit plan mean to you as a business founder? Because it means different things to different people. Going back to your ICP and the problems that you're trying to solve for them. Because really, it doesn't matter who you are and what you do. Ultimately, if you're listening to this video, you are a problem solver, number one. Nothing else, nothing more. You're a problem solver. You are there to solve your ICP's problems and then create solutions based around solving those problems. This is where a lot of amateur entrepreneurs, where they actually create the solution first, but without understanding if there's, number one, there's a demand for it. But number two, you really understand that there's an alignment between the problems that you're trying to solve and the solution that you're creating. Let's recap here because I know that I've kind of rushed through that really, really quickly. First of all, I talked about, is market demand strong? Okay. How are you adapting to growth? I basically gave you the example of the architecture firm that we're working with right now and that they're fully booked and they've started up a wait list now. and they are 6 to 8 weeks booked in advance now. If you want to work with them, you have to fill in a simple form, and they get to cherry pick who they want to choose, because guess what? They only have capacity for a small amount of clients per year. So they want to make sure that they're bringing massive transformation. Second point I talked about is cash flow. It has to be solid. So if you're having these massive peaks and troughs throughout the year, okay, in terms of cash flow, you've really got to look at, why is that the case? Is it because it's seasonal? If you're in a specific type of industry where basically there's a deadline. So you've got to make sure that there is cash flow that is solid throughout the year. And if you are in a business which, and I remember actually working with another business that was based in northern Sweden, and they run dog sledging business. And basically, they were hugely busy in the winter, as you would be, but during the summer, there was nothing, right? They would pretty much have zero business. So what is the gap? What are you going to do to fill the gap for those 6 months? Number 3, are your operations systemized? Are they streamlined? I use a perfect example of when we launched our podcast. Number 4, is the team ready? So have you had those conversations with your team? Are people aligned? Are people on board? Are people excited? Very important, okay? Because if they're not excited, then maybe you need to reevaluate who you need to make sure that you're on board. Because if you have a toxic employee, it's going to affect all the good apples. And number 5, do you have a clear growth plan in place? Because if you don't have a clear growth plan in place, and you're frustrated and you're tired and you're overwhelmed right now, then maybe you need to go back to core foundations, looking at the clarity and which direction you're going to go in. Because if without clarity and direction, it's like basically going on a road trip without clear GPS or a compass to get you to where you are, to where you want to go. So listen, guys, I wanted to really quickly share that with you. Hope that you found it of interest to you. Love to hear from you. And I'd love to, if you are listening to the live stream, by the way, if there are any key indicators and you are scaling your business right now, I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, from me, Adam Strong, hope you've enjoyed today's show, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Cheers.